Hey everybody, Yankee here. As you may know, the deadline has passed now from the Trump executive order regarding the Second Amendment, where he set people out and said, find out what's being done to infringe people's Second Amendment rights and report back and come up with some solutions. And people are wondering, okay, well, what did they find and what are they doing? Well, so far it seems like, well, not much of anything. Now, one big thing has happened. They're giving back Mel Gibson his gun rights. That's a positive thing, right? And it is. I'm a firm believer that he should have his gun rights. He is a naturalized citizen. You know, he was an immigrant, but he's an American citizen now. So he should have all of his rights. And those were stripped away because of a conviction on domestic violence years ago. And I don't think that that should be enough to take someone's rights away. So he should have had them all along. So I definitely support giving him back his rights. That's one thing we're seeing. And I'm seeing some people making videos saying, ooh, this shows that they've got a committee set up to give people their gun rights back. And that means that this and this and this and this is probably true, which I don't understand that. These people that craft these hopeful iceberg scenarios, that because you saw this little tiny white tip here, there's something giant going on below the surface. That's not necessarily the case. And it's definitely not the case quite often when politicians do something for somebody rich, connected, powerful, famous, you know, like Mel Gibson. So even though this is a positive thing, these people that are crafting these videos saying this shows all of this stuff and connect the dots. Anytime someone has to tell you connect the dots, it really means they don't have anything to tell you. That they're, you know, engaging in conjecture, wishful thinking, and like I said, they're world building. They're creating their own little iceberg. A hopeful little iceberg. But the reality is, not much has been done. Now, would it be great if they were giving back everybody their gun rights who lost their gun rights for things other than being incarcerated? Yes. If tomorrow they were setting up an office, setting up a line, setting up an address where you sent your case information, if you were a convicted felon on one of these trumped up charges or whatever, because, you know, if you're not in prison, I think you should get your right backs. Send your information here and we'll start the ball rolling on getting you your rights back. That'd be something. That'd be huge. And I hope that's the case. But you know what they could do that would be even faster than that? They could just pass a federal law that says you can't remove people's Second Amendment rights because of trivial incidences. If they're not in prison, and they haven't been imprisoned at least, you can't remove their Second Amendment rights. If they walk out of the courtroom, they keep their rights with them when they go. When they walk out of jail, their rights are waiting for them on the other side of the fence. They could pass laws like that. They haven't. If Trump spent as much time trying to pressure Congress into passing some pro-gun laws, like Massey's constitutional carry bill or a national reciprocity bill or a law, like I said, that says states can't remove Second Amendment rights for these things, if he spends half as much time doing that as he does selling Teslas, well, then we'd be getting somewhere. Oh, and by the way, a little word to the people here that are going to get offended because they're going to think I said something critical of Trump when I point out he didn't do anything. And they're going to get mad and they're going to leave. Just leave quietly. Don't muddle up my comment section with your bitching because you perceived a slight to your savior. That's not the place for you to vent. Go vent to your friends. If I walk into a bar and I don't like the band that's playing and the music just sounds awful to me, I don't jump up on a table, proclaim what I do like and how I don't like them and I'm leaving and never coming back, you know, and then watch me as I walk out the door. I don't do that. I just leave. So, you know, have some decorum, have some self-respect, and just leave. But as I was saying, right now, that's what we should be seeing. We should see Trump pressuring Congress to pass pro-2A laws that override state laws, which they do. If the federal government passes a law regarding the Second Amendment and it's found constitutional by the courts, any state law that is contrary to that law is unenforceable. Federal law overrides state law. So let's see Trump out there, like I said, instead of selling Teslas, selling rights, getting people their rights back. Or let's see him pressuring the Supreme Court to make some pro-2A judgments. Not just vague ones. We've gotten some great victories in the past. We've gotten to where, Second Amendment rights have been declared an individual right. You have a right to carry a gun for self-defense. You have a right to have a gun in your home, and all these things. And how you have to judge gun laws based on historic precedent. We've got all those victories. But they're hypothetical victories. As long as states are still allowed to have laws that are contrary to those, well, are those victories really that impressive? Well, not yet they're not. So Trump needs to get on the Supreme Court and say, hey, we're watching. I'm putting you under a magnifying glass. Stop kicking the can on things like assault weapons bans. And I got to do quotes for assault weapons. And magazine limits. And anti-carry laws and roadblocks you put up in front of people for being able to carry guns. That's what he needs to be doing. He was doing that when he was wanting them to rule in his favor on cases that involved him. He was like, the people are watching you, and if you don't do the right thing, they're going to probably come to your house. That kind of stuff. So do that now when it's for us. He's willing to do it when it's for him. And one of the things I've said 1,000 times recently is stop giving him adulation for free. Stop giving him all this appreciation and worship for nothing. Demand something first. Because as long as Donald Trump is being adored for doing nothing, he'll do nothing for anybody but himself and his friends. If he knows, hey, people aren't going to follow him, people aren't going to support him unless he does the things he promised, he'll do the things he promised. I really do believe he will. I do believe if people start saying, you want the cookie, Donnie? Well, do what you said you're going to do, you get the cookie. He'll respond very well to that, and he'll do what he said he'd do. But right now, people are just falling at his feet when he doesn't do anything. And when he does something to try to make it look like he's doing something, you've got these people online that will make a chart with like 57 bullet points with lines going back and forth. It looks like one of those maps from a movie where this is what's probably happening. Connect the dots. And I think all those people are doing are trying to convince themselves, or they're just trying to get on Donald Trump's good side or be popular with his followers, trying to increase their own footprint, increase their own views. We don't do that here on this channel, or else I'd have a lot more views. But that's all they're doing. If you have to play that game, if you have to craft these iceberg scenarios, these hopeful icebergs, well, then that means you don't really have anything to talk about. So let's start doing our best to make it to where we have something to talk about. When Trump stands up and says, I've created an office to get everybody their gun rights back, here's where you send your information, I'll be cheering. I'll be wearing a Go Trump shirt. If he says, I'm putting pressure on the Supreme Court to do this, I'll be like, yay, Trump. If he says, hey, Congress, get these jobs done. Get this stuff for the Second Amendment done. And anybody, any Republican that votes against this, I will be out at your next primary taking pictures with, promoting, campaigning for your opposition, your opponent. I will make sure you do not get reelected. And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but it's what politicians do. So do it. Act like you want these things done. And you, the gun community, stop acting like they're doing something when they're not. Now, I'm not expecting huge, immediate, amazing results because, frankly, neither the president or Pam Bondi have that power. A lot of people were expecting Pam Bondi to say, well, all these state laws I think are unconstitutional, therefore they're null and void. She can't do that. States have powers to pass laws. And unless there's a federal law that goes contrary to it, there's not much she can do. She can file a lawsuit saying she thinks that law is unconstitutional, but all those things are already facing lawsuits. She'd be at the back of the line. She could maybe jump to the front line, but it wouldn't change anything that the lawsuit that's at the front of the line's doing. She could throw her support behind it. We don't see him doing that. When was the last time you heard him come out and talk about one of the Supreme Court cases right now regarding gun rights and Pam Bondi saying, we're throwing all the power of the Justice Department behind it? You haven't seen any of that. So like I said, I'm not expecting amazing results because I know they can't work magic. But there's things they could be doing, and they're not. And I'm not going to sit here and try to craft a fantasy world where all these things mean something and all these dots connect. When something actually happens, I'll be the first person singing the praises. But until then, I'm just going to sit here and demand results.